bringing the total to 3,460. Think about it. We planned that memorial when we just lost 3,000, and we've lost another 460 since then. This thing is awful. It is deadly, and we've got to defeat it as quickly as we can. We've got to keep up the things that protect us until that day comes. The 39 Kentuckians lost today include a 79-year-old woman from Barron, 85-year-old man from Bath, 85-year-old man from Butler, 59-year-old woman from Callaway, 79-year-old woman from Christian, 77-year-old man from Christian, 90-year-old man from Christian, 67-year-old woman from Clay County, and a 68-year-old man from Clay County. A number of individuals from Crittenden County, 3 women ages 74, 83, and 97, and 2 men ages 50 and 78. We lost a 65-year-old man from Edmonson County, 3 Fayette Countyans, a 69 and a 79-year-old woman, and an 82-year'old man. We lost a 72-year-old woman from Floyd, an 83-year-old woman from Graves, a 69-year-old man from Greenup, a 90-year-old woman from Hart, a 93-year-old man from Hopkins, 2 women from Jefferson, ages 78 and 82, an 85-year-old woman from Livingston, a 66-year-old man from Lyon, 2 Madison County residents, both men, ages 74 and 80, a 73-year-old woman from Mercer, 82-year-old woman from Metcalf, an 81-year-old woman from Monroe, a 70-year-old man from Rowan, 3 Simpson County residents, all women, ages 65, 96, and 98, a 73-year-old woman from Warren, a 73-year-old man from Warren, and a 75-year-old man from Washington County. And most days we give a reminder in terms of recognizing a really special person that this Commonwealth and this country and this earth have lost, so that we know that those flags out there, they represent somebody whose family is mourning and missing them, and somebody whose community, whose place of work is missing them. So today we remember Tara Mahone. The Kentucky Court of Justice lost one of its own to COVID-19 when Tara Mahone passed away January 15, 2021. Tara worked with young people as a court-designated worker in Christian County. She was full of energy and had a smile that made you feel at ease, which you could see in that picture. She exemplified service above self, especially for those in need. Her passion was to mentor the youth of the community. Before becoming a court-designated worker, she was a victims advocate for Trigg and Todd counties. She also created programs to help those in need through her work at Sanctuary House. She was a proud Christian and served many through her acts of faith at Cedar Grove Baptist Church in Hopkinsville. Her husband, Keith Mahone, said he was proud of all the work that Tara had done, ministering to youth and families. He said he was at peace, knowing she was going to heaven, where he will see her again. Tara had a master's degree in social work and was pursuing a master's degree in criminal justice before her death. Tara will be inducted into the Department of Family and Juvenile Services Hall of Fame by the Administrative Office of the Courts. Well, we'll miss Tara. And I know her work family, her family, and her community are going to miss her greatly. And I know she made a great impact on this earth while she was here. Let's wear a mask in her honor. We're going to be planting a flag in her honor, but let's also do better in her honor. We need folks like Tara, especially who dedicate service above self. We need more and more of them in this world, in this country, especially right now. Let's make sure that we keep them here with us. Thank you, Tara, and to your family, to your husband, Keith. Thank you for letting us celebrate her, what made her so special, and her service today. Long-term care. And we'll have a little bit of good news on vaccinations there in a minute. 70 new residents testing positive, 55 new staff, 33 of our deaths attributable to long-term care. So that's 2,130, again, out of 3,400 deaths. Shows you why vaccinations here are so critical. I want to give you an update, which I'm going to do Monday each week, of the last week in our schools. Again, not all of our schools are reporting every day and every week, which is their obligation, the number of cases and the number of quarantined students and staff. We need that for parents to have a real choice. So totals for last week, we had 1,321 new positive cases in students. That's K through 12. 602 new positive cases of staff. That is a great reason to get our teachers vaccinated and vaccinated quickly. 5,422 students were quarantined for the first time last week. 780 new staff were quarantined last week. We have 27 high school sports teams in quarantine. So the myth that COVID doesn't happen in or around schools is a myth, but that's one of the reasons that our schools work so hard, and they do a good job of trying to protect students and staff. And it's also why we are working to become the fastest state to vaccinate those that work in our school buildings, so that we can get back open full time to our students, getting that in-person quality learning in a safe way for those that dedicate themselves to the students, protecting the faculty and those that work in the building. All right, let me give you a quick vaccine update, and we're working on the way that we're going to be able to provide data on vaccines. Because there's a couple different things here. There's overall number of doses, but I think what we really care about are people, or how many people we can get that first dose in, how many people we get fully vaccinated. And for those waiting out there, they really want to know when they can get their first dose, and working on our reporting so people can see how fast and how successful we are on that. So the first piece of news is we have now used 88% of all of the first doses that have been allocated to our state program, the one we run. That means we've gotten through 88% of all those, which each one corresponds to an individual, and we are getting better and better. This last week, we actually vaccinated the most doses ever and the most people ever. So this last week, we vaccinated 82,511 people. That's our record, by about 4,000. The week before, if you look at individuals, it was about 78,000. So that's 82,511 new Kentuckians that have received at least their first dose. Now, I've talked about the problem here is supply, and supply. Because that week we only got 56,000 first doses. What that means is we were using leftover from especially the very first weeks when we were still building up our ability to provide this. What that means is by the end of next week, or at the very most, I believe, the week after, we'll have used up every bit of excess we have. And that would mean we wouldn't be able to give 82,511 people that first dose. We would be restricted to what we are getting in that week because we wouldn't have any reserve from the early on weeks. So I'm excited about the fact that we can already vaccinate significantly more people. We're doing it right now than we're getting doses. But our ability to provide Kentuckians with vaccinations is extremely limited due to insufficient supply that we are getting from the federal government. We mentioned last week, we believe that we could vaccinate 250,000 Kentuckians a week right now, and we're still building up our capabilities. But if we're only getting 56,000 new doses, it is an extreme limitation that's holding us from getting our people vaccinated as quickly as we want. Now, we provided, we used 93,499 doses this last week because we were giving the second round of vaccinations as well. I believe as we move into the future, we want to focus on number of people. And so we're likely to focus most and report most on that first dose, on new individuals getting vaccinated, because our goal is to get to immunity, is to defeat this virus for good. And so we could give you just a total number of doses administered. What we care about the most is number of people that are getting vaccinated. All right, and one other piece of good news, we believe that all long-term care facilities, skilled nursing homes, and assisted living facilities have received their first doses of the vaccine. If there is any remaining assisted living facility that has not received it, call our Cabinet for Health and Family Services, call Adam Mather, and we will make sure to raise that with CVS or Walgreens. But we believe, as we're here today, that the first dose has been provided to all of them, and if it hasn't, we need to hear about it, and we will correct it immediately. So, I mean, we're rolling in our ability to do this, and this Thursday we're going to provide an update on regional centers that are going to be needed when we open up 1C, because we're going to have over 1 million people that are in 1C. But I keep calling the federal government. We've sent letters to the manufacturers. We simply must have more vaccine, but we can show you statistically that we're getting it out really fast. We're really efficient in it. And if you're frustrated, and I'm sure you are, we all want this. Our problem right now comes down to one thing: it's supply. But we're going to continue to work and work and work to ensure that we can increase, that we can press the federal government to increase the amounts. If we get another vaccine authorized, Johnson & Johnson being next, there'll be more supply. Our long-term care program, as it winds down, we won't be sending vaccine to it. So some people will experience a feeling of more supply because we're able to put more towards the state program, which we get out a heck of a lot faster than the long-term care program. But we need a lot more. I mean, we need 4 times, 5 times what we're getting from the federal government. I'll continue to advocate every day and every way that I can to try to get you your vaccine as quickly as possible. So Thursday is going to be a big day. You're going to want to tune in about where the larger centers are going to be, how you can sign up. But remember, when we get to 1C, we have over 1 million people who are eligible. We're getting 56,000 new doses a week. You can do the math in that it's going to be a real challenge, and a lot of people are going to be frustrated about either not getting an appointment or how far it's out in the future. It's just basic supply and demand. All right, we've got Amy Cubbage here with a UI update. I want to thank everybody for allowing us to move it from Thursday to today. Amy.
Thank you, Governor. Today we will give you an update on numbers. We're going to talk a little bit about how the extra $300 works for backdated claims. We know there's some anxiety about that, and hopefully I can explain to you how that's going to work. There's a lot of questions about the 1099s for tax year 2020 that have started going out. I'll talk about that a little bit for you. I want to give you some updates on the Bank of America debit cards and one small update on how you can report UI fraud. So first to the numbers, we still through the end of November have approximately 1.5 million claims. Again, as we've explained before, though that claims number includes duplicates. You could have one person who could have accidentally filed 10 claims, or you could have one person who correctly filed 3 different types of claims. So when you break those numbers down, that is about 650,000 unique claims for about 600,000 people. We have a total number of claims that we have approved of 554,000. Approximately 27,500 that have been denied. There are 87,000 approximately pending that have a hang up with the claim, but of those, only 40,748 are people whose identity we can verify. So only about 46% of those claims we think are right now most likely real people. So that's our numbers for through the end of last week, and obviously we'll have updated numbers on the next update. Now, the questions we've had about the backdated claims and how the $300 weekly supplement works. There are a lot of people who are afraid because their PUA claim has been delayed because of our need to do the computer programming, means that they're going to miss out on that $300. That's not how that works. Once you get that pay, if it's for the first week of January, even if you don't get that pay till February or March, you will get the $300 for that week. It works exactly like the $600 did back earlier in the spring and summer of 2020. So we know that there are issues with the backdating. The Office of Unemployment is working hard on that programming, and we should have an update later this week for you for people who have back weeks to claim about how to get that claimed back to the beginning of January, so you don't have to wait an inordinate amount of time to get that money. Now, 1099s, we know a lot of people have been confused by the 1099s that have come out, that where you see the number of the amount of unemployment compensation at the top of the document. You don't believe it matches the amount that you actually got. That's probably true because that is the number pre-tax, and most people have tax withheld from your unemployment benefits because those are taxable both at the federal and state level. So the amount that is up there is the gross amount. Then the amounts that have been taken out are listed in another box. So that is all information that when you do your taxes, you'll have to put in. But if after looking all of that and you deduct the amount of tax that was taken out, you think something is still wrong, tomorrow there will be an email you can email, and that is KYOUI1099@ky.gov. And they can help you out with that. Now, a reminder to those with the Bank of America debit cards, if you are still receiving payments on those, that ends at the end of this month. You will have until the end of February to spend that balance, but after that, that balance won't be available to you anymore. If you have not updated your profile with the bank account routing information, you will start getting paper checks after this week. Please, please, if you want a paper check, make sure that we have your accurate mailing address so that you can get that in a timely manner. And for new claimants after January 1st, you should have only had the option for a direct deposit or a paper check. So this should only affect people whose claim was filed prior to the end of 2020. Now, last, I want to give some information on how you can report fraud. We have had an uptick of fraudulent claims. So if you receive a letter saying that you applied for unemployment benefits and you did not apply, or you are an employer and get a notice that an employee filed and the employee is still sitting right there, you can email uifraud@ky.gov and we'll flag that claim and make sure nothing is paid out on that. And also, too, if someone has been able to file those claims, obviously there's an identity theft concern. You can check out the resources on the Attorney General's website. It gives lots of good resources there where you can check your, where you have links to check your credit reports and make other kinds of reports about identity theft. And that's it for today.
All right. A lot of information today. We'll open it up to questions. We have both Amy Cubbage and I think we have Dr. Stack available for questions. We will start with Karen Czar from WUKY.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, Virginia. On unemployment, can we get a number on how many claims are being cleared per day? We've been asking that for a while and haven't gotten that. And at the rate that we're going, what's the expected completion date on all those leftover claims from 2020? And Amy, we're glad you're doing well and welcome back.
Well, before we send it over to Amy, I will say that there are so many different types of claims that one challenge here is, we've got that big group sitting there that we can't verify the identity. We think the vast majority are fraudulent claims. They're getting a final notice that's going out because many have been sitting for 3 or 4 months. And if we don't get a response, you'll see a whole lot of those that are denied. And that if anybody who has a valid claim is in there, at least they finally get to a point where they're in a different system and and can push their claim forward. So you'll see a lot of that. But right now, if there is an ID issue that's flagged, we send out notices to people to try to fix them. But if they don't, they've sat there too. So there's a bit of a challenge depending on the type of claim, the numbers per day. The other thing is, it's not just the unresolved claims, it's also people who develop issues 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, that our people are helping every single day. So it's just, all I'm saying is it's more complicated with the total needs of Kentuckian citizens than just number of unresolved claims divided by number of people in UI. And with that, Amy will fix everything I messed up.
Nothing at all messed up there. I will add, we are trying to get that number for you, but it is very difficult to get simply because the numbers are all over the board from day to day. We could have, if you have right now where we have the extension of PUA under the Continuing Assistance Act, we have an influx of new claims, and we have programmers who are trying to find ways to process those in batches. It means our numbers could vary wildly from one day to the next, depending on where the programmers are. And then just another note, just so you don't feel like we are trying to ignore you, because we really aren't, and we do want to be transparent and get you the information you need. We have 3 people who work on programming for us on a regular basis. I know we've talked a lot about just how crazy the system is, particularly the old mainframe that uses a 1970s programming language. These 3 people not only pull the numbers that we share with you, they are working on all the programming to get benefits out under the new PUA extension. They were recently working on the extra stimulus payment to people who either didn't get LWA or whose claims haven't been processed. They're working on upgrades to the system. So they are severely taxed. So when it is a difference between we have to have them work on getting the new PUA extension set up versus pulling the average daily number, we've prioritized getting people their benefits. We hope everyone understands that. We are still working to get you the information you need, but it's we truly do have a limited number of resources who know how to work that computer system.
And it just highlights our system is so old, you got to code it just to get the number of claims you process in a day. It's unacceptable that we have a system like this for something so important. Shelby Smithson from WKYT.
Hi, Governor. You mentioned today the state believes every long-term care facility who wants it has gotten their first dose, but we have noticed the percentage of doses allocated for that program used is only at 39% administered. Are the rest of those doses saved for the second dose, or can you just clarify why that percentage seems so low?
So we had to allocate, pursuant to the federal contract, the total amount that they would need for that entire program if everybody said yes. And what's happened is, originally there were, especially in staff, a number of people that said no, but there are 3 separate visits that CVS and Walgreens take. So in visit number 1, almost all the residents are saying heck yes. And then some percentage of the staff are saying, we kind of want to wait and see. Visit 2, all the residents are saying, give me my second one. And the staff that didn't take it the first time, a lot of them are accepting it. And then there's the third visit. We do believe, though, that the amount that we have provided will exceed or has exceeded what they will ultimately need. And we are working on that right now to reallocate a portion of that back to the state program. This is something that every state is facing. 49 states went with this program. I don't believe the federal government set it up in the best of ways. It would have been better to not supply it all up front, but over time, in the same way that we give vaccine to other providers. But it's a lesson learned that we will ensure is not repeated, certainly here in Kentucky. Sarah Ladd from the Courier Journal.
Yeah, thank you. So the positivity rate is lower today, but it's still higher than it was different times last year when extra measures were put in place, and it is higher than the World Health Organization would like it to be. So in light of that, I wanted to circle back and ask about restrictions once again. Is the combination of declining cases and declining positivity rates still going to keep more restrictions at bay, or is the state looking at more options to make sure that decline continues? And then also really quickly, I wanted to ask, with the vaccine supply issues that we're having, what are the chances that the regional sites open next month that then have to immediately or semi-immediately cut new appointments because there just aren't enough shots to go around? Thanks so much.
So cases are too high. Positivity rate is too high. But when we use the restrictions is typically to stop exponential growth. And so we look just as much at the number of cases, but more so at the trend. So each surge is when we have put them in place. You know, back in the beginning where we did Healthy at Home, in the summer where we could be more surgical, and then even more limited and limited in time, which we did November into December. The trend right now is going down. So we are not considering additional restrictions at this time. Now, we're also not looking at easing capacity levels right now because, again, our numbers are overall too high, but the trend line we're seeing in America and here is good. But again, it's fragile. It is really fragile. And we want to see those cases go down and down and down and down. What I believe, looking at some of the data, is that we got better mask usage right now than we've seen in a long time. And if that keeps up, especially if we can get to warmer months where more people will be outside, we could really be moving in the right direction. But that takes hard work that we've got to keep up. With vaccine supply, what we will see is the regional centers, will open and will service individuals, but not as many people will be able to get appointments as we would like. So one of the reasons we have to have regional appointments is the difference between different really good providers that can help get targeted populations that are going to continue to, like our local health departments, where when we've got a specified population, they're amazing at going out and getting those shots in the arm. But when we open things up to 1 million Kentuckians that qualify, and we have 56,000 appointments a day, you got to have the infrastructure so you don't have 20 people answering phones just during the day, and your system doesn't crash. So everybody's got this really important role in getting this vaccine out to everybody who needs it. We're all just going to be playing different roles, but those regional sites are going to be up and are going to have to be up, because to deal with that crushing demand, we have to have different tools. And that's both the computer system and the man and woman power, and the ability to handle those phone calls, to create waiting lists that are going to be more than 10,000 deep, most likely, and an ability to prioritize individuals over 70. So even when we move into 1C, when we open up these regional sites, we're going to be asking all of our providers that while they can schedule everybody in 1C, that they all have systems to prioritize people over 70. So those regional centers are going to be needed, even if we just have our current insufficient level of supply, because of how large the priority group is that we're going to be dealing with. Again, on Thursday, a lot more information on that. Tom Latek from Kentucky Today.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon to you. And I get a lot of emails from folks who are talking about their unemployment benefits, and for those who have to wait until February 2nd to reapply because their other benefits ran out, will they be getting back benefits, let's say even back into January, or will it only go from February 2nd going forward?
Let's go over to Amy for that one.
get back pay. That they are OUI is working on the programming for some of the backdating issues that have unfortunately come up. So did I start too early?
Yes.
Okay. The short answer is yes, they will get all of the benefits they're entitled to. If they don't get set up until, say, February, but they were entitled to benefits for all of January, we are working on programming to make sure that those payments get pushed out to them, whether it's through a supplemental request or a pay order card. And that will also have the $300 supplement with that. Before you leave, though, I misstated the 1099 email. That should have been KYOU 1099 at ky.gov. So I wanted to make sure I put that out there too before the people from that office come over and find me and smack me.
And we do not authorize workplace violence. Stu Johnson from WEKU.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor. As I'm sure you're aware, the Red Mile Historical Horse Racing Center closed this morning at 4 a.m. This is based on a representative from the Red Mile said that the state Supreme Court denied a rehearing of the case. The court ruled, as you know, in September that certain games of historical horse racing were not legal. For it to continue in Kentucky, do you think it needs a constitutional amendment before voters?
I believe the Supreme Court was pretty clear. It just needs what I believe is a simple statutory fix, and I hope that the General Assembly will quickly pass it. It's very important to one of our signature industries. It has helped to increase its health. It provides about $15 million in revenue to the state each year, creates a number of jobs, is now creating a number of tourist experiences in a number of parts of the state. I think we ought to get this fixed, and I hope we can work in a bipartisan manner, and I think we can to get it fixed. Now we have Abisola Adamayo from WPSD. No? Okay,
Hello?
Melissa Patrick from, oh, there you are.
Oh. Can you hear me? Yes. Hi, Governor. Sorry about that. So some of the data for our local school districts are showing a spike in COVID quarantines. And in some of these same areas, the vaccine rollout plan has been moving pretty slowly. So with this in mind, should Kentucky be thinking about stronger short-term restrictions to mitigate some of these spikes in schools?
Well, I think the flexibility and guidance that we've given to school districts should be very carefully considered. And our school districts have to know that while we're still dealing with a pandemic, that there are going to be times that they may have to move to virtual to lessen number of cases and then ultimately move back into in-person. It could be that they move to a stronger hybrid, but especially as you see more students in a given area testing positive for COVID, you need to err on the side of doing something about it. Now, what we're excited about is that we think we're going to be the fastest state to vaccinate our educators in every part of the state. Now, that'll provide a level of protection to the faculty and to everybody who works in that building. Because while very few students have had the worst of worst outcomes in COVID, now they have had some concerning results that can impact health long term. It's truly those that work in the building, adults, that are most at risk of ultimately dying from this virus. So until we can get to that point, especially, we think that our superintendents and others looking real carefully at the data and having the wisdom when they see spikes to really consider just for that limited period of time what needs to be done and doing it. That's the local leadership that we need. And that's all given having me not seen that data down there and is not a comment on any specific decision made or not made by any specific superintendent before I get 30 calls on that one. Melissa Patrick from Kentucky Health News.
Hi, Governor. The Courier Journal's reported that since mid-March, Louisville's health departments have surveyed more than 300 restaurants and businesses that have led to enforcement actions. Is your administration keeping track of local health department violations across the state? And if so, are they increasing, holding steady, or going down?
So we keep track of what our labor cabinet has done, of the calls that we get in, of the actions taken. Melissa, let me check if we get back a report on that from the local health departments. I have not seen it. And there are some jurisdictions that are using groups other than the local health department to do it as well. But let's see if we've pulled that data together. We certainly made the ask of local leaders all around Kentucky to help us get compliance back up. Certainly, the Louisville Health Department has really worked at that, and it's greatly appreciated. Chris Otts from WDRB.
Thank you, Governor. Like Ms. Czar, I have some outstanding unemployment questions with the Labor Cabinet. I'll just pick one of them here. When a claim is under investigation, who does the investigating? How many staff are dedicated to this task? How does that compare to before the pandemic? And could you have used any of the CARES money or other money that you may have at your disposal? I know you're asking lawmakers to fully fund this in the budget, but for now, when people need help, could you have used any of that money to either staff up or go with contractors to increase the staffing levels for whoever determines the outcome of those investigations?
I'll turn this over to Amy. We certainly did use a significant number of CARES Act money for Ernst & Young to help increase our workforce. One real challenge we found in all of this is UI is like a different language. It has complex federal and complex state law aspects. It has a computer system that only a couple people out there even know how to use, and it was set up to be such a pain in the butt by the federal government that most people give up, and that's the climate we find ourselves in. So over to Amy.
When a claim is under investigation, it could be for a whole host of different things. It could be whether or not you were terminated for cause, if you quit but had a good reason to quit. There could be other kinds of separation issues. There could be wage-related issues. There are multiple things in the universe of things that could cause you to have a claim that is under investigation. As far as the staffing, I'm just going to be able to give you large estimates. I believe we had about 25 people who are disputed claims investigators. That is now comparable to what it was before the pandemic hit, though for a short time we tried to bring in additional people. It takes 6 months to a year to get someone up to speed normally to be a disputed claims investigator, as opposed to just someone who's going to help process a claim. Now, under the first Ernst & Young contract, that is primarily what the Ernst & Young staff were doing. They were doing the fact gathering on disputed claims so that our disputed claims investigators could write determinations. Under the second contract then, because Ernst & Young did so much work on those claims and got so many claims ready for the written determination, we then hired them to help us write those determinations. So the Ernst & Young, we did use CARES Act money to help with that staffing, both on the actual fact investigation side as well as drafting. And that's something that we can continue to look at to help get some of that backlog out in the future.
Charlton from WHAS, and I'm sure this question is for Amy.
Yes, thanks, Governor. Appreciate it. Yeah, I guess this will be for Amy. We talked to a lady today, Christy Bryson, and she had her phone appointment today. The phone call, she finally got it. It was about 40 minutes late, and it seemed like the specialist was giving her some conflicting information. That what happened is she filed in March, then a specialist in April got on the phone with her April 30th and set the date as April 30th for filing. So she's told today that she won't get those weeks before that, in March and, in the early parts of April. She was also told that anything to do with the $600 per week would have to be brought up with the CARES Act people. She had no idea what she was talking about. Do we know if everybody's on the same page here?
Well, let me try with that. We'll, John, if we can offline, get you the contact information here. I think we'll want to speak to Ms. Bryson directly. It is a really complicated process, and if that's an accurate depiction of the conversation, well, certainly the conversation needed to go better. But it's definitely speaking a different language to both the person working it and the really hard part is this individual and every other Kentuckian. It's like you have to understand ancient Greek to know what you need to do on your claims, because that's how complicated the system has been set up. But certainly a call should go better than that, and we will contact her directly. Piper Hudsmith Blackburn from the Associated Press.
Thanks, Governor. So last Wednesday, President Biden directed FEMA to begin putting together planning for vaccine distribution centers, and states have to request them and work with FEMA to sort of set those up. I know that Kentucky has that partnership with Kroger, and there are plans in the works for regional centers, like you mentioned before. But I was just asking to sort of clarify: have you requested that type of assistance from FEMA, or do you plan to in the future in regards to the distribution centers?
So starting last week, when some of those announcements were made, we've gotten some great communication from FEMA, a number of offers of help, and this is one of them. And we do want FEMA's help in setting up one of those centers, and we talked to them about it. What both FEMA and our folks agree on is that we want one, but it's got to come with its own extra supply of vaccine, and can't simply be a federal site that is using the same amount that we're getting right now, because it's just not enough to spread around, and we can already get that out. So we're even looking at potential sites for a FEMA vaccination center. We do have 2 sites that are surge testing done by the federal government, but everybody involved agrees that it only makes sense if we get more supply. That same call, FEMA said that we were actually the best in our region that they serve in vaccinations, but supply being the limitation. But we're ready for their help, and if it comes with more vaccine, we'll set it up tomorrow. But very positive communications from FEMA, and I hate to come back to the same thing, but it's that simple. Supply is the challenge. It's not the biggest challenge, it's the challenge. We can work out all the rest. Supply is the challenge. And I think it's the challenge for the federal government too. I'd like to see the federal government flex its muscle, use whatever powers there are to get manufacturing of these vaccines increased significantly with whatever that takes. Alex Ebert from Bloomberg.
Thanks for taking our question, Governor. If you could please put us in the room with the discussions you're having around helping folks that are elderly get these vaccination appointments scheduled, and what folks are doing to help get the word out into this community that might not be as good at using the computer as younger folks.
So we've had really good providers. You know, we are a piece as the state, and we get to do a lot of the messaging. But these, especially for seniors, the hospitals, the health departments, and others in their region are known. All of our regional centers are going to have telephone lines as well. We do ask family members to help their parents and grandparents sign up, and we've seen some pretty big success out of that. We're reaching out to faith leaders that oftentimes communicate with significant numbers of seniors. There's some specific programs the Cabinet for Health and Family Services is working to reach certain types of seniors, including homebound seniors. But this is when we think big and when we think small. There's a big piece of the 70 and older group that has a smartphone and can get on. There's another big piece of that group that has a telephone and if given the information, can sign up that way. Then there are other parts of that population that are harder to reach. So we'll have our big partners running regional centers, and I don't mean big as importance, everybody's important. And then we will have our targeted groups that are out there doing some really tough work in getting the vaccine to those that have more challenge in getting to it. There certainly is going to be priority as we continue for those over 70 as well, knowing everybody can't get in at that same period of time. It's important. We're going to continue to treat it as important, and we're going to ask all of those, especially 70 and older, but really 65 and older, until you get your second vaccination, your second one, be very careful with where the virus is right now. Be very careful. This is at worst just months away. Work with us. Patience is hard, but there will be a vaccine for you. Lee Searcy from WLEX. Okay, I think we may have lost Lee. Everybody, I know we went just a little bit long today, a lot of information. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about mutations of this virus. We're going to be talking about the importance of continuing to get tested. We will always be talking about vaccines, but certainly the major news on vaccinations, on trying to, again, get this in a consistent place where you always know in your region the couple numbers to check with, to call, where to get online, to continue to work on scheduling your appointment. We're going to make a major step towards that this Thursday. I can tell everybody out there is doing a much better job wearing a mask, social distancing. Keep it up. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing the right trend in cases. This can all fall apart really quickly, but we're moving in the right direction. If the federal government will just get us more vaccine, we will get it to you as quickly as we can. But until then, we grind it out. We know that we are still in the trenches. We know we're going to win. The amount of time it takes to win depends on that supply of vaccine, but we are going to make it, protect one another as we work towards that. And again, if you're in and around the Frankfort area, come take a look at what's now 3,500 plus flags, each representing a very special Kentuckian whose family and communities are missing them today and will continue to miss them in the future.